Welcome to the Creatively by Estelle podcast. My name is Estelle Avberry and I'm your host. This show is for creative and performing artists, and this is your space to feel creative, to feel inspired and motivated every single week, and to be given tactical tips and tools for you to reach your creative goals and fulfill your purpose as a creative person. You are welcome here. Let's get into the episode. Hi, welcome back to the Creatively by Estelle podcast. Welcome to a new week. How are we doing? How are we feeling? I hope you're feeling well. I'm feeling pretty good. Right now I'm out of town, but I'm so excited to give you this week's episode. It's going to be a replay of a live that I just did. And I just went live and I was talking about being creative and putting yourself out there. So if you have ever struggled with like showing up, putting yourself out there, or you've wanted to put yourself out there more, this is the episode for you. So yeah, I hope you like it. I'm actually reflecting too because a week ago, last weekend, I was in this play in my city, and it was a short play. I was in a 10-minute play, and it was one of like several plays for the evening of short plays. That's what it was called, Evening of Short Plays. And it was so much fun. And the entire week, like Tech Week, it was so fun, but also challenging. Like, just like there were doubts, I was like doubting myself, like all these fears run through your mind. Like, what if I forget all my lines? What if I freeze on stage? I've been performing my whole life, but I haven't like acted in this way. I haven't acted really since high school, since the summer before college. So it was a big jump for me. It felt like a big jump, a big step for me. And I'm so glad that I took it. I'm so glad that I challenged myself and stretched myself in that way. And it also felt very safe because it wasn't like a full show. I wasn't, it wasn't a musical. It was a straight play. It was a short play. So it wasn't so overwhelming. And I do talk about that too in this replay that I'm going to share. I talk about how you can just start small. You can start in a small way and you can take one tiny step to put yourself out there and to share the creative gifts that you know you have and you want to grow. And a lot of the time we want to feel confident before we do something, before we put ourselves out there. And honey, like I mean, some people have more natural confidence, I think, but even then, when it comes to doing something that you love to do or something that you just feel like this whisper, like I feel drawn to this, I really want to do this, I want to try this, and I'm scared, expecting yourself to be confident when you haven't done it before, or you haven't done it in a long time, or you haven't done it very often. You're putting a lot of pressure on yourself to be confident in it when you haven't had the experience. So I think that I said this again, and I'm going to talk about this more in today's episode, but I think that it really takes intentional and repeated steps of courage over and over again for you to then eventually build up confidence in doing a thing that you want to do. I think you have to take those steps of courage and put yourself out there and try it, and do it more. And then over time, you build confidence the more that you do it, right? So, yeah. And again, I'll talk about this more in today's episode, but I just hope that gives you some peace of mind when it comes to putting yourself out there and really going in full force in whatever your creative passion is and whatever your craft is, to know that it's okay if you don't feel like 100% confident in yourself right now because you haven't done it as much, maybe, or you still are working on one aspect of it or another. And that's okay. You're going to grow over time. We're all going to grow over time, but we have to be willing to put ourselves out there, even if it's in a small way, and to do the creative thing. And I say put yourself out there, meaning that you share your gift, right? Your gift is not just for you, but it's for you to share it with others to, to inspire others, to teach others, to entertain others, to inspire. Or I said that, but whatever it is, right? To bring community around you, right? Art connects us. And so if you have that creative gift, you definitely have a right to share it as well. You definitely have, you ought to share it as well, right? It's a responsibility as well as a gift. And so, yeah, putting yourself out there, even if it's a small way, is so important to our growth as creatives. And so that's why I wanted to share this episode, and that's why I wanted to talk about this. So I hope that you get something out of this episode. If you do, let me know. Leave a review, DM me on Instagram at Estelle of Berry, or you can screenshot this episode and repost it on Instagram and tag me at Estelle of Berry. I would love to hear what you thought of this episode and if it inspired you. You can also, if you think of one person who you think will be inspired by it, you can also share it with them. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into the episode. I'm going to share 3 simple steps that you can take to put yourself out there as a creative. I think one thing that I'm learning and realizing and growing in is that it really does take more than just confidence to put yourself out there. Like, yes, confidence can be built up over time, but it really just takes like wanting, like, you just have to want it so bad, and you have to like just put yourself out there. You just have to go for it, right? And take that kind of courageous step. And I had Deanna Giletti on my podcast last week. Actually, we did her interview weeks ago, but I was supposed to post it in March. There was a tech issue. Anyway, it's all resolved. But that was supposed to happen. And then um, in her episode, she talked about how she told this story, right? And in this story, she was going in. Oops. Okay. Sorry. I'm on 20%. This will be quick. Anyway, so Deanna Giletti, right? Her interview, she was talking about how she was going in for an audition, right? And the girl in front of her asked her what song she was going to do. And she told her she was choosing between 2 different songs. And one of them was, it would really help if I remembered it. Oh, I can't remember the song. But she told her what one of the songs was, or she told her what both her options were. And then the girl went ahead of her and she could hear her and she sang one of the songs, the one that she had been leaning towards singing right before her. So she was like, what am I gonna do? Like, she was freaking out. But then she walked into the audition room and she tells the people at the table, like the casting um director, and she was like, I'm gonna sing something you've never heard before. And they're just like, "Oh, okay." And then she starts singing the song, and then they start laughing. And she goes through the song. She sounds great. And they literally give her a call back on the spot. They're like, oh, yeah, we definitely want to see you again. And like at that moment, it would have been very easy for her to be like, this girl, basically, I don't know. That was kind of, a little sus. That like this girl literally just took my song, and now I like that was a song that I prepared. I'd worked on it, and now like it's just gonna like there's no way I'm gonna get this part right. But she decided to turn it around in her head and have that confidence to go out there, have that courage rather, really, to go out there and to say no. I'm still gonna do it, and I'm gonna do it my way, and I'm going to be the best that I could be. And she, because of that, she got that reward, right? She got that opportunity. And so I think what I'm trying to say is that when it comes to putting yourself out there creatively, wherever you are in the process of like figuring out what your creative thing is, um, maybe you know, maybe you don't know, right? Um, Wherever you are in that process, be okay with taking like small steps of courage, if that makes sense. And maybe if you feel like you want to be creative or you want to be more creative, but you don't quite know what your thing is yet. First of all, if that's the case, let's talk, because I talked about it on my last episode, the midweek motivation that I do on Thursdays. Um, I talked about how if you want to talk about your creative passions and like figuring out your creative thing, I've been there. I have done the work. It's definitely hard. It was really hard for me to figure out like and really to clarify exactly what I want to focus on creatively because I was like all over the place. I love a lot of things, and I still love those things, but I it took me time to really be able to clarify and yeah, be confident in that. So yeah, so I was talking about on the last episode. If you need help with that, let's do a session. Let's just chat. You can sign up. I'll put the link in my bio, or it's also in the show notes in my last episode, and you can just sign up and let's talk. Let's talk about like focusing on your creativity and focusing on like one thing that you want to focus on creatively. If you're struggling with clarity, because that's something that I've worked through myself and finally have clarity on what I want to do creatively. And so, yeah, let me know if you're interested in that. You can let me know. You can DM me or you can sign up. The link will be in my bio, but also, and it's free too. I actually want to get more um, like data from you. Like I want to know what you are struggling with, so I can put out better content on my podcast and everything. So actually, it'd be really helpful for me if you could sign up for one of those because then we could talk. I get to know you better, and therefore I would be able to focus more of my content on what you're actually struggling with and stuff like that, and like find guest speakers and guests on my podcast that can speak directly to that issue too. So it's a win-win all around. Yeah. Anyway, that was a side note, but I think the first thing though is that if you are like again wherever you are in your journey, but if you are trying to find more clarity, yeah, I think finding that clarity is really important. Being really clear on that is important. But even if you're just starting, you can still start to put yourself out there. And it can be by booking a free session with me and putting yourself out there and telling me what you want to do creatively and or with a friend, if you paint, start painting, get some supplies and start doing just do a little something and take a picture of it and send it to your friend and be like, hey, I made this for you. Simple. Just one small way of like having that courage to put your work out there because like yes, we all want to be creative, but it's the courage piece, right? Like if you're not sharing it, like yes, you can create for yourself and that's beautiful and I do that too, but I think part of the fun of being creative is being able to build community around that and being able to share that with other people. So, yeah. So even if it's just one person, like if you're just starting out and you're just trying to figure out what your creative thing is, yes, Arjune, yes. Oh, and you're just trying to figure out your creative thing. Yeah, even just sharing it with one person is honestly a step of courage. So yeah, I'm actually going to share 3 steps, I think, for sharing your creativity, putting yourself out there, especially if you're not sure where to begin, putting yourself out there. And I say this for creatives or aspiring creatives. If you want to be more creative and you don't know where to start, again, oh, Arjane said, okay, yeah, you struggle with sharing your creativity with others. Okay, yeah, so this is exactly what I'm saying, right? So even even if you have been doing whatever your creative work or creative thing is for a while, it's still hard, because you second guess yourself, you doubt yourself, and all this stuff. So I think the first thing is to really be clear on what you want to share. So like what is it that you do? What is it that you love to do? Like know your why. Like why do you love it so much, right? Like I know why I love singing, I love performing. Like it just fills me up. Like it just makes me so happy. I love connecting with people. I love telling stories through music and performing arts. So that's why I know I love it. Right. So you have to be really clear on what it is that you want to share, and once you're really clear on that, then you can go to the next step. So, but I think the first thing is really to be clear. Like, what do you want to put yourself out there for? I guess you could call it branding, even in that sense. Like, what do you want people to know you for as a creative, right? Hey, Moises. Right. So, how do you like these comments? I don't know how to do that. I'm trying to like all of your comments. Oh, here it is. There we go. But yeah, so I think the first thing is to be clear. Be clear on what it is that you want to share. Yes, I'm glad you're connecting, Arjane. And then I think the second thing is like logistically figure out where you want to share it, right? I share a lot on Instagram. I share a lot on my podcast. I share a lot of more singing and performing stuff on my TikTok. I've done YouTube before, not my thing. Like, but you can try things out and figure out where it is that you want to share it practically. I also share it like in my community, right? I've done open mic nights. I sing in my choir every weekend at church. That's more like worship side of singing as opposed to performing, but nonetheless, using that gift, right? I shared it in my community last weekend actually because I was in a play, and it was so fun. And so that was like one way, to like figure out where you want to share your creative gift. Where are you going to put it out, like logistically, And if it's just with one person, okay, that's great. Like, okay, I'm going to, work on this. Maybe you're a writer, maybe you are a singer, right? Okay, I'm gonna write a poem today, and I'm just gonna write it for my friend because I know that she was having a bad day, and hopefully this will lift her spirits. Simple, right? Just being really practical. Where are you gonna share your art, right? Putting yourself out there. It doesn't have to be like a million followers. I don't have a huge following at all, and yeah, I still put myself out there, right? So you don't need a huge following to put yourself out there. You can just do it. You can really just do it, and it does take courage again, because I think courage in practice over time will build confidence. If you know what I mean, like once you continue to practice putting yourself out there, even though you're sweating and stressed, like I am right now, putting myself out here, right? But over time, you build more confidence in what you're doing and what you love to do. So hey, cuz. So, yeah. So, I think the second thing would be definitely figure out logistically where you want to share your creative thing. And then lastly, is to take the leap. Really, very simple. Take the leap. Take the leap of faith, right? Have the courage to put yourself out there. And what does that mean? Yeah, exactly, RJ. Yes. Start with sharing with your friends to get comfortable and gain confidence. Absolutely. Like start with your friends, Like start with your church family, your small group, right? Start with your family, right? Your siblings. Start with your community, you know? And let it be easy. Like we make things really hard. Sometimes we build things up in our minds. We're like, oh my gosh, if I'm not performing on Broadway tomorrow, I'm not singing ever. No, no, we have to start somewhere, right? So you're not going to be in the MoMA tomorrow if you're just picking up a paintbrush, right? So yeah. That's okay. I do the same thing. I do the same thing. So that's absolutely fine. We all do that. But yeah, so we kind of build it up in our minds, but really we can start small, taking small steps. And this can apply to anything. I always apply to creatives because that's who I really like to speak to on my podcast and on this page. It's my way of really sharing my love for the arts and performing and creativity. So, yeah. But you can honestly apply it to anything in life, right? Taking the leap, and taking that courageous step to put yourself out there. It doesn't have to be drastic. You can start small. So those are like 3 steps. I just wrote them down, 3 steps. And again, I gave that example earlier about Deanna Giletti, who's on my show. She has like over a million followers on TikTok. She has this huge audience online. And even that, how that began, it started because she just started putting herself out there on TikTok, just like over COVID, right? And she was just being herself and sharing about her life. And because of that genuineness, right? That genuine just sharing, that's what people connected with. And so when you are genuinely sharing what you love to do, once you are clear on what you want to share and you know where you're sharing it, and then you actually take the leap to share it, even if it's in a small way, and it's genuine, people are going to connect to it, right? And you're going to grow in confidence over time and all of that. And, I also had my friend Sam, on the podcast earlier this year too. And she said something very similar about how she was trying to get a film internship that she got. But when she was first trying to get it, she like had a certain, like a list of people that she was reaching out to, and they all said no, right? And then the last person that she reached out to finally was able to, like, she finally was not rejected by that last person, and it was like the perfect opportunity for her, and it was like everything just aligned perfectly for her by the grace of God, right? And she, she shares the story. I think it's episode 26. I posted about it a couple days ago on my profile, on my page, on my feed. So you can check it out there. Link in bio, of course. You can listen on Apple, right? Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And she talked about that story too. And so all these people, like, these are just a few people that I've been able to interview, people that I know, people that I met online. And it just amazes me all the time. Yes, exactly right, right? It's amazing, right? It amazes me all the time how just by putting yourself out there, opportunities will follow by the grace of God, right? Like, God can do anything, but even the Bible says that faith without works is dead, right? So we are called to take that courageous action. And yeah, so if you're creative, if you're trying to be more creative, you just want something more creative in your life, that's okay. Wherever you are in your journey, that's fine. Um, I think this is something that we can always go back to, of like putting ourselves out there. Be clear on what you want to share. Be really clear, as clear as you can get. And if you want more clarity, you can sign up for a free one-on-one chat with me, because I want to get to know my listeners and community better and figure out like what um, creatives are struggling with. If you know someone who is creative or wants to be more creative, send them to my page, send them my podcast too. Like, if you have one friend who you're like, oh, they're kind of artsy, like I feel like they could be inspired by this or this could help them, send it to them too, because we all need that support, right? And we all need that clarity on what it is that we are doing creatively. So I think the first thing is really be clear. The second thing is know where you want to share it, right? Where you want to put yourself out there. What are the logistics practically, right? And then the last thing is to just take the leap, honey. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Let's put ourselves out there. Let's share the gifts that God has given us to the glory of God, for the good of others. Amen. Right? All right. I hope that you enjoyed that episode. I hope it was helpful. Once again, the 3 steps to put yourself out there as a creative. The first one is to get clear on what your creative gift is. Get really clear on it. And if you need any help with that at all, again, feel free to go to the link in the show notes, click that link, and sign up right now to book a one-on-one session with me. It's free. It's as long as you want it to be. I mean, 30 minutes, right? 20 to 30 minutes. And we're just going to talk. And I'm going to help you try to clarify what it is that your creative passion is and what you can focus on, what you can start to put your attention to, and also help you figure out ways that you can actually practically start working on your creative thing today, right? So book that with me. I'm not going to, be able to do a bunch of people. So make sure that you go right now and schedule that. And I promise you it will be helpful, because I've been able to do that for myself, to find that clarity on what my creative passions are, what my gifts are. So I'm definitely going to do my best to help you. And also, it'll help me too, because I'll get to know more about who you are, and I'll get to be able to know about what you're struggling with, so that I can use future episodes to target those particular issues. So if you need that clarity, go to the link in the show notes and sign up today, and let's figure that out, okay? So that's the first thing, is to get really clear on what your creative gift is. The second thing is to get clear on where to share your gift. Where are you going to put yourself out there on? Like, what platform, right? How are you going to do it? Are you going to share with a friend? Are you going to share with a family member? Are you going to put yourself out there on social media? Figure that out logistically. And then the third thing is to take the leap of faith, right? Is to take the leap and put yourself out there, and to, just have that courage to just do it, to put yourself out there. Now that you've found the clarity, you figured out where you're going to do it, and then you actually do it, right? So you've taken this time to build up. So now you just have to do it. And so I'm so excited to see, hopefully, I'll be able to see more of you as members of this community, as listeners, putting yourself out there. If you do that, tag me at Estelle of Berry on Instagram or Facebook as well. And I would love to I'll hype you up, I'll repost it and everything. So let me know if you do take inspired action and put yourself out there as a creative. And also just let me know if you like this episode and if you can think of one person, like if you can think, oh, I have a friend who's also really creative or who has this gift in them and I know that they should share it with people, give them this episode and maybe it'll inspire them and help them to put themselves out there. You never know how by sharing this you could bless someone. So go ahead and do that. And yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for listening as always. And I will see you next week. I'll talk to you next week. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Creatively by Estelle. I hope you feel encouraged by today's episode as you start this week. And if you have a moment, I would love for you to just share this episode with a friend if you liked it or with someone who you think this could be encouraging to. It would really help the show. Also, if you really loved this episode, if you wouldn't mind going to Apple Podcasts and leaving a review and rating this show, it would really help us reach more people through this show and grow our Creatively community. All right, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week.